to be here.
Yes. All right. So we're going to be going live in about 5 seconds. So if everybody has to blow their nose or do anything like that.
Do something you could do in 5 seconds.
I'm gonna fix my hat.
The list is getting shorter.
No. All right, everyone. So thanks again so much for coming on the call and talking about Devil May Cry. I'm excited again, Doug. Thanks so much for coming on and congratulations on the first season. I thought it was great, a great first season. You know, I think you guys had a lot of different elements, you know, that I think you just makes for a classic animated sitcom. You had, you know, like a twist ending, you had lovable characters, you had characters you rooted against, a great world. I feel like you only kind of tapped, like really scratched the surface on the world, you know, in terms of, you know, the types of characters you could have in Hell, and or this new take on Hell, I should say. And I think it's been an amazing first season. What do you think?
Thanks.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
no, that was it. I'm just saying thanks.
Yeah,
Amanda, feel free to take a bow too. I know you're an EP on the show.
Now the guy that did all the writing can chime in.
Yes,
now that I'm taking credit.
Well, I mean, thanks for saying all that stuff. I think we're really happy with the way it turned out. Mm-hmm. It was, let's say, a challenge to produce the show during the quarantine with the coronavirus.
Sure.
But it worked out. We all worked from our homes and we had a fantastic experience doing it. Mm-hmm. And I have to mention, the funny thing is that you said, wow, it's got all this cool stuff. It had a cliffhanger to be continued ending. Early on, I was like, hey, Amanda, I'll bet if the last episode is to be continued, they'll have to renew it. And
it was all strategic.
Yeah. So I can't say that was a creative decision.
Right.
It was more like, let's get more money.
That was a money decision. Yeah.
Yeah. How can we trick them into a season 2?
Exactly, hook them. But yeah, so I'm sure you guys can't talk about whether or not a season 2 has been picked up yet. But I mean, the ending did leave so many great, you know, ideas of where to go. And you kind of, and Beans was a character that I really rooted for, played by the awesome Asif Ali, who was also in WandaVision, who was awesome in that show too.
Yeah.
So congratulations to him and all his success. So, sure. I mean, what was it about Asif that you guys liked, you know, for the series? What made him a good pick to kind of be almost like the canary in the coal mine, just kind of introducing us into this new reality?
Yeah. Well, you know, when I was writing Beans, I realized that he was our eyes and ears. We were going to see the world through him. Yeah. And he was always going to be, what the hell's going on? Like, he was always going to be reacting in either horror or confusion, but he's innocent because, you know, he's not really an evil guy. And so we just needed someone who can be earnest and give a good scream. And our casting director gave us a list of great names. And I think we both just went to YouTube and searched for them and see what they sounded like. Mm-hmm. And Amanda, I don't know if it was the same for you, but as soon as, you know, I closed my eyes and I listened to Asif stand up and I'm like, yeah, that's him. That's the guy.
Yeah. And he wasn't somebody that was necessarily on our radar. Exactly, because most of his work has been in stand-up. And then we both heard it. We're like, you know, there's all these other names that have more like TV credits and maybe have a little bit more brand recognition at this point in their career, but he just felt really right. Mm-hmm. And he ended up being just amazing, and especially him against Alan Tudyk. Like, we just got so lucky on our cast. We are so fortunate.
Yeah, everybody was an amazing cast, really from top to bottom, of who's who. And then you were talking about Asif. You know, I think it takes somebody who is a stand-up comedian sometimes to be that one who knows how to deliver a joke. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, there's something about stand-ups who do, you know, animation or even really any sort of comedic television where they really just work. You know, they know how to deliver that punchline, and it's from you know, obviously knowing their craft. I mean, was it easy to kind of direct him and get him focused on what he was supposed to do?
Yeah, he had it down pat. I mean, we explained to him that he was kind of like, he's in over his head in this world. He's not sure of himself. And then when it came down to the moment that we record, I'd be like, okay, you're 34% ashamed of yourself and 68% hesitant. And he's like, okay, I got it. And then he got it. Like, and I think that really is the stand-up thing, where you really gotta fine tune how you present yourself to get that laugh from the audience. And I think they really get hurt when they don't get that laugh. So they're just emotionally driven to get just the right delivery. And it worked.
Yeah, and of course.
I guess I'm trying to say he's a very damaged person.
Right. Yeah. Poor guy. We just took advantage of him right and left.
That's right. Well, hey, whatever happened, it worked. So, who cares how he got there? But so I mean, the show had so many great guest stars this season too. I mean, from Lindsay Lohan, I thought she was great as Beans's potential love interest, and then Lewis Black was awesome as he is in everything he does. I mean, when you were coming up with people that you wanted to have as part of the show, Doug, I mean, what was that list like? And, did you feel, almost like you hit the lottery when you hit it?
I always wanted to cast someone that made sense for the role, not just in the delivery, but in the fact that it's them. Like the atheist character that Lewis Black did, the fact that he's arguing the whole time and pissed off and intolerant, that, it wasn't just saying, okay, get me something interesting. It was like, try to get Lewis Black. He was one of our top names. And especially with Lindsay, like we thought of a lot of names of girls that can play, innocent, charming, someone that you might fall for yourself. And we went through a few and it wasn't really clicking. And I threw to the network and Amanda, like, what about Lindsay Lohan? And everyone was like,
we were like, do we think we could even get her? Like, would she even want to do something like this? Because she's living in Dubai.
Yeah. And then we said that to Linda Lamontage, is that her last name? Lamontagne. Her philosophy is, she's our casting director.
Yeah, one of the great casting directors. Shout out to Linda.
It never hurts to ask. Just try, see what happens. She claims that she got Vladimir Putin on the phone once. And I'm like, if that's true, that's amazing. But wow, that's quite the story.
If it was anybody else saying that, I wouldn't believe him. But because it was Linda, I half believe it.
So Lindsay read the material. She liked it. She agreed to do it. The Dubai thing was quite the challenge because it's only a few hours of the day where our lives overlap.
Yes.
And then we had to ship her the right recording equipment that she could record with in her room, because people don't have that just laying around. And when we finally got together, she was just, I don't want to sound dramatic, but she was very giving as an actress. She kept asking for direction. We tried it many different ways, and she just nailed it. And she was such a pleasure to work with. She's got to come back to LA. She'd be great.
I know. I'm sure she's missing it, especially after this morning's fun events, right?
What happened
this morning?
Oh, you didn't hear about that little
the earthquake?
Shaky. Yes.
Oh yeah, that woke me up last night. I was like, do I have to run outside? Where are my shoes? The dog was like, and we had one the other day too that woke me up in the middle of the night.
Oh wow. Gotta love New York. Anyway. So Amanda, I know you come in with PsyOp, a company that's done such a lot of great work in animation. You guys have done a lot of great spots and whatnot, and it seems like it's such a great time to be in this adult animation space today. And so what are you guys seeing in terms of the demand, especially of course this past year with COVID and whatnot? And what are some things that you're excited about to kind of experience in the future that we might not know about?
Well, there's a couple things. One is there's so many buyers out there right now, which is awesome. And people talk about there being a glut of shows, but I still think that there's just an exceptionally high amount of really high quality programs that are being brought to market. And that is awesome. And a lot of them are really writer driven, like this one with Doug. And even though it is a very writing driven show, I still feel like we were able to make it look great and to add a lot of detail into the world. So there was a lot of visual humor, not just, the dialogue and the performance. And then the other thing is, our studio closed on Friday, March 13th, and we all went home and continue to work harder than I ever have in my entire life. Well, my husband, who's a cinematographer, was like, oh, okay, I guess I don't get to work for a while. But in animation, you really can do it anywhere. Of course, you want to be in the studio, you want to see your friends, you want the dogs to like hang out and stuff, but it absolutely can be done and done well remotely. So that was, that was a really cool thing to figure out.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, and it just so
people like
happens,
it.
like, I think we were kind of getting into a boom anyway of adult centered animation, and it just happened to be, okay, here's another reason for some of these projects to go from being live action to animation. And I mean, you're right. I mean, it's just a great time to be around. Doug, I'm sure you got a couple things out there in a pipe that we don't know about. And yeah, I mean, what do you think as a producer and a creator? I mean, is this now a great time? What do you think?
Well, I think the virus was a boon for animation. I don't want to say there's a silver lining, but the fact that people are able to produce it, because you just do all this stuff at home. I mean, the fact that you can record the actors in their apartments, the sound engineers are really unhappy about that, but they make it work.
Mm-hmm.
It allowed things to get greenlit because the people need programming.
Yep.
That being said, there was a huge effort to get some live action stuff going. They quarantined an entire crew.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that the people that grew up with cartoons full time are now adults, like that's our generation.
Yeah.
It's legitimate. I mean, I think if back in the 80s or something, you had done a lot of adult animation, people would be like, I don't get it.
Yeah. It was like AM Flux on Liquid Television, and that was your only choice.
Yeah.
Or something that was coming from France or Japan. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, my mom used to always yell at me, "You're watching too much cartoons," and I love to tell her now. I'm like, well, haha, it's paying the bills now, Mom.
Yes.
They used to yell at me for comic books, and I'm like, I should have done more. I should have done more.
Sure. It's interesting, Doug, because you were talking before about Lindsay Lohan and getting her the equipment so she can record. I wonder if the immediacy of knowing how to do that would have even happened had it not been for COVID. Because it used to be, oh, is this person in town? Can we get them? This sort of a thing. And now it's like, do you really need somebody in town? Do you even need somebody near a voice booth anymore?
Right.
I'm not so sure. I don't know. I don't know if that guess what happens. Without like everybody already now kind of understanding what the sequences to get somebody up and running to record for an animated show.
Well, it's funny that remotely, some voice actors who are just professional voice actors, period, like Fred Tatasciore, he built a studio in his home.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think that's amazing where he just now puts on his bathrobe and walks into the room and he's recording. Of course, there's a downside to that because there was like 1 or 2 times where we just needed him to record like one sentence. And it's like, dude, do we need to do a whole feed just for that one sentence? Come on, man, it's just past your bedroom. so that worked against him. But I don't think, I mean, now people are experts in just what you need to buy to record in your home. I think everyone knows it by now, and they didn't know it then. But it's a crazy world where, you don't have to live in Hollywood anymore. You don't have to be anywhere. Lindsay was in Dubai.
Yeah.
And you can't get further away than that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'll see if this sticks. When the whole quarantine thing is lifted, maybe people actually like seeing other people in person. Who knows?
I mean, got made it this far. I don't know. I mean, but we talk about like one thing that we wish that we had done, and we were actually on a really accelerated calendar. So, and because we had people all over the place, one thing that I think would do for season 2, knock on wood, would be a table read. And if we could do that in person, that would be fun. But, we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. And I'm sure nobody misses that downtown LA traffic either. So,
oh my God, no. No, I don't miss that at all. My studio is in Venice and I live on the other side of town. Like, I spent years of my life in my car.
So yeah, I mean, I can't say enough good things about Devil May Cry. I think, I honestly think, and I'm not just saying this because you guys are here, like on Syfy, I think it was probably the most original and then like even like the funniest. Like, there's just something, Doug, about your writing that has always been pretty, it's always been joke laden. Like, you've always had gags, and I don't know if that comes from so many years on Robot Chicken. I don't know if it just came from whatever, but like just doing the business for so long. But there's just always you always make sure that to make us laugh every page, so to speak. And what is that from?
Well, it's half Robot Chicken, where we would pitch like 6 or 7 sketch ideas to each other in the room every day, and we were not embarrassed to just say, no, that sucks.
Yeah.
So you really had to fine tune it in there to get stuff on the air. And then when it's in the script, I mean, the show is only 11, 12 minutes long. And so if anything's not funny, it's cut.
Yeah.
You know, even individual lines, individual scenes, it all goes. So I think that really is a great, you know, it's a great situation to be in for any writer that just teaches you. It's like, don't waste time, you know, get stuff in there.
Yeah.
And the other half of it is just me being neurotic, where I'm like, there's so much TV nowadays where unless this has 8 things going on at once, they're going to turn the channel. And that's why there's so much crap in the background about, you know, little jokes here and there. What book is that on the shelf? What painting is on the wall? What can that character be doing instead of just standing there? And I think I annoyed the hell out of the production company, but they did a great job with it. It came out.
Doug is extremely neurotic. He did a great job of wedging as much in there as we could. But we also, you know, we had a lot of support from Syfy, and I got to give it to them. They gave us a ton of freedom, and more often than not, like all the notes and the feedback that we got made it all better.
Yeah.
And they really helped us with, you know, S&P and pushing it. And so it was a fun show to make.
I'm actually surprised to hear there was even an S&P as part of the show because it was so dirty. Doug, I don't even think Adult Swim could air some of the stuff that Syfy was doing, and I loved every second of it.
Well, that was actually really funny to compare the S&P experience at Adult Swim and Syfy.
Yeah.
Because Syfy is like, and it's surprising, they're like, do anything. Like, we don't have to curse the F word, you know, say all this stuff. They're just like, you know, no, there's some kinds of nudity we don't need to see. And I'm like, need, want. You know. Whereas Adult Swim is more hardcore, like you can say shit only a few times.
Yes.
You know, there's a few lines you can't cross. And there's also a TV-14 version of our show where we talked about what Devil May Care at first, but then we just kind of gave up. It's like, there's no way to make this TV-14.
Yeah.
So I guess kids, sorry, you know,
very mature 14-year-olds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very worldly.
You know, Doug, I gotta say, even though Devil May Care was a 12-minute series, I feel like there's so many characters here. You could have easily done a half hour, I think, with this one, because
I know, right?
There was definitely everybody had a B. Like everybody could have been a solid B character for any, you know, arc going on or whatever. I mean, it just seemed like it's weird. It almost feels like a 22-minute series that was cut down because there's so much going on.
We really wanted to cram a full story in there because in 11 minutes it's easy just to have a few long scenes and not actually tell a real story. And again, the production company was not happy. Titmouse was like, I think we signed on to a show that was only going to have like 4 backgrounds an episode, and you're giving us 30. And we're like, well, you know, what are you gonna do?
And they pulled it off too. They never told us no.
Yeah.
The whole thing was actually really, really well, like, fortunate. And
yeah, that's good advice. If you want to work with Titmouse, get them to estimate the cost of a show that has very little going on. And then just give them whatever the hell you want.
Do a little bait and switch.
Yeah, I was just going to say the whole Chris Pernowski bait and switch. Got it. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of stars of the show, I mean, Alan Tudyk, I mean, you guys couldn't have asked for somebody better. You know, here's somebody that can, you know, he's another one of those, you know, talent with 1,000 voices type. Yeah. You know, I mean, he could do anything. And it just so happened, you know, Syfy had this whole, you know, big thing going on with Resident Alien, which was, you know, a big hit with Alan in the star in that too. So, I mean, why not?
Yeah, it worked out.
It just goes to show how good he is, though, right? Like the fact that he could play all these different characters.
Yeah.
I don't remember if the network suggested Alan or that was Linda.
No, that was Linda.
That was Linda. Okay.
Yeah, and then they were like, "Oh my God, yes," because of Resident Alien. So then we were on the late night Anna block, and then we got moved up right behind Resident Alien, which was really cool.
Yeah,
and it was just amazing because there's a lot of names that were on the list, and we were like talking about the pluses and minuses of each one. But then when she said Alan, we just were like, "Well, is he available?" Like it wasn't even a question of if he's right for the role. It's like, oh, like well, I don't think I think we assumed he was busy, and he wasn't. Well, I mean, he was, but. Especially with the quarantine, he's got time for the voice booth, you know.
Sure.
And he just was wonderful. He did ad-libbing in the booth. He nailed the characters' voices. He understood the scenes of what Devil would be doing in that scene. And he was such a pleasure just to talk to.
Yeah, he's cool. Yeah.
He told us little stories about the makeup for Resident Alien and stuff. Such a nice guy.
Yeah. always a swell guy. And then, of course, just having that person who's so, comfortable with voice, that helps too, because he knows how to, do that type of direction and whatnot. So, he was on Robot Chicken a bunch of times too. So, there's again, another bankable person that just happened to be there for you guys.
Yeah. And Pamela Adlon too,
Yes, Pam Adlon.
In her writer's room too for season 6, I think, of Better Things, and brought so much to it. And she, like most of these actors, read at least 2, if not 3 roles per episode. And you can't tell because they have such incredible range that they sound completely different.
What I love about Pamela is that we sat down, we actually recorded her before the quarantine really hit. At least in the beginning. We recorded a bunch of times, but the first time it was before the quarantine. So we're both there. We're all there in the recording studio. And I'm like, so here's what the character is. And I explain Regina to her. And we're talking. And then she's like, you know what? I think she's Bulgarian. And I was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. That's really weird. But then I'm like, okay, let's try it. Like, you don't want to ever say no. And it was perfect. Her instinct, she just gave it a little Bulgarian accent where she's like old school hard ass. And the fact that she gave it that accent means her speaking broken English once in a while works just fine. And that fits the character too. Like she's learning but resisting being even a conversationalist. I love the people that have done this before because they just had such great instincts. And plus she's a fun person. There was one time I'm recording her and my kids had accidentally walked into the room and I'm like, get out of here. And she's like, no, let's talk. Hi, kids. And then she gives them a quiz about the flags of the world. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, but the kids are having a good time. She's having fun. Okay.
Yeah. And of course she just happens to be one of the best voices to boot. So, it all works out. Right. But yeah, it was such a great first season. I can't see why a season 2 wouldn't happen and be longer. It was so good. And then the writing was smart. The look of the show was great too. It had this like aesthetic, this, I remember, Doug, when we were talking to you the first time around, you were mentioning, hey, I wanted to really kind of not this to be a show about, like religion or anything like that. You really wanted it to be about, just happens to be a setting. Hell just happens to be the setting that's going under some changes, and Beans comes on as a hire-on. So and I think you guys achieved that.
It's a little frustration of mine because when people write about the show on websites or whatever, they're like, yeah, the devil and hell and I'm like, yes, it is about the devil and hell, but it's not the point. These are characters and the guy happens to be the devil, but it's not like we're saying, what would devil do today as the Lord of Hell? It's not the point. And I think that actually gives the show more for the viewer to think about because they have all these preconceived notions that are not showing up. And they have to think about, like, what is this character doing and why? And that was important to me. I really wanted these characters to have things that they want. Devil wants to be doing a good job. He wants approval from God. He's not getting it. And that just drives him to be more creative in what he does. I really just wanted these characters to be able to write themselves and just to complain and ask for things, and I didn't really have to do any work. Yeah,
that was basically what Doug wanted, is to avoid the work.
Yeah.
So when you're coming with a look and like how the characters should look and how the backgrounds should look, like how does that play in? Are you trying to throw away like the typical resources that someone would use for hell, and how do you guys kind of merge it so it's still kind of hell, but it's not, it's like downtown hell, like sort of thing?
Well, I think the way we phrased it in the beginning was the same way if you watch an episode of Futurama and they're in a city, but the city has sci-fi touches. We wanted a city that had little hell touches, and that's it. But otherwise, it's a normal environment you can tell normal stories. And so, you know, you have the glow of lava coming through the drains in the road, and you have strange things flying overhead once in a while. But otherwise, it's things you understand. Like I didn't want people to look at the screen and have to think about what the fuck that is. Excuse me. Like, is that bad that I just cursed? Can I just?
No, not at all.
Yeah, fuck it. Okay.
Throw one more in. Yeah.
Yeah. Ass.
Yes.
So I remember watching Battlestar Galactica and saying how that show was all about the characters, even though it was heavy sci-fi, to the point where the sci-fi was just the setting. It wasn't something they rammed down your throat. These are characters going through true challenges, and they just happen to be in a sci-fi look. And this is the same thing here. It's like these characters, yes, even though it's President McKinley, he is still a guy trying to do a job with his own point of view. Mm-hmm. And I hope it worked. I mean, I hear people like the show. I hope that's true, and I'm not just hearing from the millions who hate it. So we'll see.
Why President McKinley of all the presidents you could have picked? Why was he the one that went to hell?
Well, that's a fun story. I love the fact that through the 1800s, America had like a dozen or so presidents that are all just blurred together as like guy in black jacket and black hat. Like they're all that's all they are. Like I couldn't tell you like which one is Van Buren, which one is Taylor. They're all just guys in black suits. So I figured getting someone who has top of the line leadership experience and force that guy to be a number 2 under Devil and make him really angry that everything the Devil does just annoys him. Like that kind of old school president is perfect. And then since I don't know any of them, I went to Wikipedia and just started scrolling through them. And if you look up President McKinley in Wikipedia, his headshot, his old school black and white headshot, he's got this intense resting face. And I was just like, whoa. And that was it. I just like, that's the guy. That's him. So now run to Wikipedia, check him out.
Yeah. And of course you had Fred on as voicing him, right? And he's another serviceable voiceover. He can do 1,000 characters. I mean, you guys, I think that was that seemed to be a recurring theme here. Let's get people that can do 10,000 voices, and you got some of the best.
Yeah, him, Greg Griffin too.
Yeah,
and Phil Lamar, just
absolutely
like
Murderer's Row.
I think we knew that we would have like weird demon number 7 have a line every now and then. So we needed people that could just be like, "What? Weird demon number 7? Okay, this is what I think he sounds like," and nailed it.
And it worked, yeah. So, so one more, and I'll let you guys go. I mean, what are some areas of the show of Devil May Care would you want to further explore, and hopefully in an upcoming season? What are some things you had fun with that you think you'd want to mess around with a little bit more in the future?
Amanda, what should we do?
Well, I mean,
let's just have the pitch meeting now, Amanda.
Yeah. Well, when we were pitching this, we did get into a little bit more about like the origin of hell, which is already in episode 4. Yep. But then what happens when that origin story starts to get updated a little bit and maybe somebody visits from another realm?
Okay.
And how does that destabilize Devil's sense of self-worth?
What do you think, Doug?
I think the 2 areas I want to see more personally is I want to see, we got to give Gloria some episodes. Like in the run in season 1, a few people got their own episodes, but as head demon that makes sure the trains run on time, let's say, what does she do? And I also want to explore the wasteland outside of the city. I mean, we've seen a few creatures running around, just like a weird elephant with arms for trunks, you know, but what else is going on out there? And I've got a lot of fun ideas, and hopefully we can explore.
And then, of course, that balance of Earth and Hell. How did you come up with that, Doug? Like, it looks like you wanted to pop in to Earth every once in a while, but you didn't want to stay there with some of the stories. What was that? I mean, did you try to throw a lot of Earth ideas out, or?
No, I pictured only seeing Earth on TV once in a while, so you can get a picture of what they're doing in Hell, what the repercussions were. And this is an aspect of the show we didn't touch on at all. I feel that Devil is once in a while whispering in people's ears on Earth and in a certain way, just to do things that'll make more people show up in hell. And we didn't touch on that at all. That's something we got to get into.
Mhm.
But the whole episode 4, where we show the origin story of hell and we go to heaven and we do all these things, that's something I resisted. I wanted the origin story to just be kind of obvious if you watch the show enough.
Mm-hmm.
But then I got tired of people saying, so what does this mean? And I'm like, so I'm just like, I'm fine. Let's explain it. Fine, leave me alone. So we just waited all.
And we got to make fun of Gwyneth Paltrow in the process.
Yeah.
And why not?
Easy target.
Yes.
Low hanging fruit, that Gwyneth.
That being said, I think she's great in the Marvel movies.
Yes.
But other,
Sorry, Gwyneth.
Yeah. Gwyneth gets a shout out. I hope she sees this. But all right, everyone. Thanks so much for coming on the call today. And we're so happy to have seen Devil May Cry. I mean, again, great job all around. We hope to see season 2 hopefully announced sooner rather than later. And like I said, half-hour episodes. There's just so much world here that I think could be a lot of fun. And hopefully the cartoon gods will listen to us and something happens soon.
Yeah. Amen. Thank you.
All righty. Ironic amen right there, Amanda. Thanks. All right, everyone. Thanks again, and have a great rest of the day and a good week.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Bye.